episode of Kate and Isaiah Living Large. I'm Isaiah.
And I'm Kate.
And we have back Amanda to enjoy our next topic that we're going to talk about, which is this week we're going to talk about body image and health versus being overweight and all that lovely stuff that's kind of controversial right now. So great topic to talk about.
And good one to add a third person to, because the more perspectives on this one, the better.
Right. Before we jump in, does anyone have anything they want to talk about this week? Anything cool that they're planning to do this upcoming weeks?
I think probably just another plug for, if you listened last week and the week before, we're doing the Port City Beer Run, raising money for juvenile diabetes. We actually have to sign up. Can somebody remind us to do that? Got to pay money, which is, I believe, on June 2nd. So another plug for the Port City Beer Run.
Yeah, for sure. Again, if you haven't signed up and you want to join us, we will be doing that. And if you just want to, do it by yourself, go and do it. I recommend.
If you want to come cheer us on, like, we were not opposed to that. I'll be the one in last.
I will be the one in second last.
If you cross the finish line as a group, you all finish at the same time. It's fine.
That's a good point.
I'm really competitive.
Caitlin will run in front of everybody else.
So the last, okay, run.
Perfect. Just jump.
Yeah. Photo finish.
Will someone be there with a photo? I need to know. Port City Beer Run, comment, let us know. Will someone be there to take a photo to make sure who won?
And just so we're all on the same page, that means Jill. Is there something is there going to be a photo finisher?
Need to know. We're going to be that great.
We got to know which will work better with our t-shirts.
That's right. Well, I think it's time to jump into our subject. So, again, our subject is on...
You want me to take this one, Isaiah?
Yeah. This is
okay,
a tough one. This is a Caitlin.
It's a tough one.
This one is about towing the line between body positivity, which is super important to be confident and feel good in your own skin, and health concerns. Because if you spend any time on social media looking at overweight people and things like that, there's a lot of talk on body positivity right now, which is wonderful. As a person who's been large and is large, it's great to see that level of commitment. At the same time, there's also people on the other side that will kind of attack body positivity and say, yeah, I can't be positive about somebody who's destroying their health. And so we kind of wanted to have a discussion about that and towing that line and how to do that as a large person yourself, or when assessing other people. And I mean, I'll give you a spoiler: don't assess other people. You don't know what they're going through.
I think it's one of those things where people who are kind of against big people often say it's like, if someone who is larger is the feature of something, be it a TV show, a movie, a photo shoot, it's like, oh, you're glorifying obesity. And it's like, that's not true. You're just allowing for visibility of all body types, of all people, like. Agreed. And it's like, it's almost stressful when it's like, oh, you're glorifying obesity. It's like, no, you're just letting people be.
Yeah, and for sure, we talk about it like they're glorifying it, but at the other side is, again, we do have to be considerate of each other's health as well.
Absolutely.
Like, there's one thing to be positive about people's look, and I'm 100% about body positivity. But the other side, we do want to be conscious of that. There are still health concerns, and that is another thing that people have to be aware of. But you don't have to shame someone because of the way they look.
Right. So, I mean, if you get a sense of what body positivity is for many people, for some people, that means being so comfortable in their own skin that they will wear whatever they want, like, have their stomach hanging out of a crop top, which, you know what? I look at somebody who does that. I'm like, more power to you. Really good for you.
Yeah.
That's I don't think I would. I don't think even if I had a washboard stomach, I would wear a crop top. That's just not who I am as a person. But that's okay. Also, I'm people who are I'm like giver girl. Like I love it. Like I think that's awesome that you have confidence to do that. Conversely, you think like, well, I don't know the health of this person. There's a lot of assumption based assessments when people are like, well, I'm not going to celebrate obesity because that person is unhealthy. Well, you don't know that person is unhealthy. That person could very well walk 13 kilometers a day and have a heart like a horse.
Yep.
And conversely, there could be a very thin person who smokes 2 packs a day and drops dead of a heart attack tomorrow.
Right.
It's just that judgment based on on appearance that becomes problematic.
Yeah, and like you never know what somebody else is going through and what somebody else is doing, be they big, little, medium, average, whatever. I have a bit of a story. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Of course.
And this is kind of something where, people are judging based on the look, not based on everything else. So, being a bigger person, there's the assumption that's like you got to do stuff. You got to lose weight. However you're losing weight, doesn't matter. If you're losing weight, that's what people look at. I think this was about 2011 or 12. So like 11 years ago or so.
5 years ago.
Oh,
It's
gosh.
always
No,
5 years ago.
Everything's 5 years. Time doesn't pass.
That's right.
I got a slim band put in. So a slim band, it was a little clinic in Toronto, and it was basically, they put in like a little silicone band around part of my stomach, and there was a little port in the side of me where they would fill and defill this little band with silicone. I had this put in because it's like I wanted to lose weight.
How old were you? Because I know how old you are now. Like you couldn't have been very old.
I was in my early 20s.
Okay.
So this was a decision I had made because, it was it was a quick fix kind of thing, that it's like it was heavily promoted. It was, these ads kept coming to me and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this. I had it in and I was losing weight. The problem was I couldn't eat anything. I couldn't drink. I couldn't eat. I was constantly getting sick to the point where I had what was called a complete defill on the band. They went to the port, they removed all the silicone from what was in that little band to see if they would open up, like it could open up my stomach a bit more. So I went through about a year to a year and a half with this band in, was losing weight, was probably at, like even now, probably at my lowest adult weight, but I was sick every single day. But people were like, you look so great.
You must be, and probably assume that you're the picture of health because, wow, you're thin, so you're clearly healthy.
Yeah, it's like, you're doing great. Like, whatever you're doing, keep it up. Behind the scenes, I'm sick every day, not able to finish a meal, like a few bites in, and can't even get water down. So I had the band removed, and it turned out it was in improperly. Oh. The clinic didn't really take any responsibility for it. It was a whole thing. But it was a point in my life that it's like, yeah, I was losing weight, but at what cost? Because I was probably less healthy then than I was when I was just how I am now. And it's that perception of, like I said, if you're too big or you're too small, you're unhealthy, and everything in between is where you're supposed to be. But that's not always the case.
And from the healthcare perspective, I think I mentioned on this podcast before, I for a short period of time hosted a podcast for med students called Project Impart. And I was initially on the show as a patient, because it's about patient-focused care. And then they play the episodes for med students so that they remember that it's not all clinical. And my episode was about a pretty traumatic experience I had when I was being assessed for some girl issues, and I had to get on a scale, and the doctor of the day weighed me, which is normal protocol in healthcare, and I I've talked about this before, clocked in over 400 pounds. And he said his bedside manner was very poor. But he said, do you have any idea do you know what a pound of butter is? I said, well, yes. He said, you need to lose 200 of those. And continued on and kind of, ranted about my weight for a good chunk of time. While it was fair that the issues I was having could have been better by losing weight, there was definitely a medical reason to say you need to lose weight, but there were just better ways to say it. Having said that, there are doctors, not any that I've had, thankfully, here. I've been very lucky as a heavy person with the medical care I've received overall here in New Brunswick, here in St. John. My family doctors, my one, Dr. Fellows, who retired, my current one, they're both amazing. They don't do this, but I've heard many stories of people who assume with people who are overweight, doctors will even say, oh, that's clearly related to your weight. Lose some weight,
Yeah.
instead of doing the testing for some other cause. Because yes, weight can contribute to poor health in some cases, especially long term, but it's not the answer to everything.
Right. Yeah, I think that is a huge problem in not as much today. I think doctors are starting to come around to it and understand it, but yeah, in the medical field, just blaming everything on someone's weight and not necessarily looking at all the other possibilities. Yes, again, your weight, you're gonna have issues if you're overweight. I mean, we've talked about it before, right? Either standing up or moving and stuff. That those all are issues from being overweight, but there are clinical things that possibly it can happen to you, and it doesn't matter if you're overweight, skinny, whatever. But if you are overweight, a lot of times people will just turn around and say, well, just lose weight.
Yeah, and then everything will be better. And I guess the other thing too, nobody ever has to tell a fat person
Right.
that they're overweight. Guess
Yes.
what? They know.
And other people have told us,
Yeah, right.
be it nice or bad.
And I was actually talking to my brother-in-law just before coming in to record this episode, and he's a doctor, and he was saying that his approach with patients, because he's an endocrinologist, so I don't want to speak too much about his career and stuff because I don't know. But his approach is to say, how long have you been struggling with your weight? Which is brilliant because that opens up a line of communication. And then if somebody, I think most people who struggle with their weight, he said not everyone, but most people will be like, well, it's been this, it's been that, it's been for years, it's been short term. And then you get an assessment and you didn't shame them, because they're already, in many cases, I can at least speak for myself and probably for Amanda, already feel that shame. And that's where I think body positivity can go a long way, so that you can walk into a medical appointment and stand up for yourself.
Yeah. And I think it's like when I was living in Ontario, I had a family doctor. I went and had a physical once a year. And every time it was like, blood work's good, everything's good, your weight's still an issue. And we had open conversations about it. Like, I talked with him. He gave me options. He weighed a variety of things that I could be doing, but he never made me feel bad for it. But he was but every year it was like, yeah, your weight's still a thing, but everything else was fine. Otherwise, I was healthy. Like, I've had more issues recently, like I mentioned on the last podcast, the osteoarthritis in my knees. That's because I'm a klutz and have fallen down the stairs multiple times. It's not because of my weight, but it's made worse because of my weight.
Right.
But I'm working on it. I'm doing my walks, trying to get it better. But it's the health is a lot more than, it's a lot more than just what people see. Right. But people are quick to judge the outside and immediately think the worst.
Yeah. I mean, that's just it. Like, it goes back to that age-old saying, you don't know what someone else is going through unless you walked a mile in their shoes. And some shoes are more worn out than others. Depending on how much pressure you're putting on them, I get really worn out. But so for those people who are like, well, I can't celebrate somebody making a movie by a fat person because that's celebrating obesity and that's wrong for their health. Well, no, you're full of shit. You're just not
Lies.
cool. because you just don't know what that person's going through. Like one of the people one of the public figures today that gets a lot of attention and puts herself out there in man ways that I am so
Fantastic.
admire, and that's the one and only Lizzo.
Oh yes,
She's
yes.
super famous for flute playing, right? That's what she's famous for.
Yeah.
That's it.
Her symphony level flute player. You guys have heard of Lizzo, the flute player, yeah?
Flute player, yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, she's definitely pushed a lot of that boundary of what it is to be a bigger person. And from what I understand, she's relatively healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she does the regular doctor stuff, and she just is that size.
Man, if you've ever seen like a video of her live performance,
My God.
that woman can move.
Yeah.
Like,
way more than I could.
yeah, well, 100% more than I think any of us in this room could.
Oh yeah.
She kills it on the dance floor and the stage, and she's got energy, and she's also very young. She's in her early 20s, mid 20s, and I mean, I think the world of Lizzo. She's hyper talented. Lizzo will never hear this episode. I have no delusions.
But
so
if she does,
if you're listening, I freaking love you. I want to be one of your big girls.
tag her on the TikToks.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and so to go along with that, we like the other side of things for the guy side. I mean, if you look at like Iron Men, like those guys are not your typical like what you would think of as a muscular man. They are definitely much bigger guys, but that's the way they train. So if you just look at them, you would not like you would be thinking, oh, wow, they're big, they don't go to the gym, whatever, and yet they're like hauling fire trucks and lifting boulders that are bigger than them and things. So
Yeah. Well, and it's like extremes of anything can be adverse to your health. And I when I heard Iron Man, I thought you meant the big triathlon competition, which is also an Iron Man.
Yeah.
To do one of those is a wild testament of agility and strength and training and all of these things. But people I know who've done them, they certainly put you in a place, but doing them like every week or something, that isn't healthy either, because it puts an intense amount of pressure on your body.
For sure.
I mean, I couldn't do one tomorrow. I couldn't do one in a year, even if I trained, because it is really intense. It's like do you guys know what an Ironman is?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's like a massively long bike ride followed by a massively long swim and then a marathon on top of all those things.
Yeah.
I have a cousin who's done one.
I also have a cousin who's done one.
Kind of wild.
Are we
yeah.
related? I'm just
Oh,
joking.
God. This will become on next episode.
Next episode, we do a DNA test.
Is your- Where's Maury?
But yeah, it's like you said, it's kind of that whole not overtraining, but extreme training to reach goals that they've set for themselves that can also be unrealistic and unhealthy, but they look in peak condition.
Absolutely. And I mean, not judging anybody
No.
who's done
God,
it,
no.
like amazing. Like
Yes.
it's just incredible. Like doing that is, like I said, it's a testament of will
Oh,
and
absolutely.
training and incredible feats
Yeah.
of strength. Like, it's amazing.
insane. Yeah. for
And
sure.
but it goes back to that age old thing of like, I would not judge anybody for anything that they do, even bad things like smoking or
Yeah.
drinking or all of those, doing drugs. Like everybody has a situation that has led them to that point, and that I don't necessarily understand.
No, exactly. And that kind of goes to like judging, right? You don't want to judge people for what you don't understand yourself, because everyone has their story. And everyone has gotten to a point. And we'll do a whole thing about homeless people, but that's kind of the same idea, right?
Yeah.
Is that no one wants to be homeless.
And well, that some people do, and
Well, I guess, yeah.
sometimes some people feel like their place in society, they can't exist in regular society, and so they choose to live rough. Is how it seemed. I don't know a ton about it myself, but
We'll do a whole episode. We'll go away. We'll do some research. We'll do a whole episode or something.
yeah, I mean, it's an issue. There's a lot of people who don't, to your point, Isaiah, but there are some who feel it's the right place for them.
And then so then we go to the extremes, right? There you can be extremely overweight, and there's health issues with that, and then there's the other extreme where people are extremely underweight, and there's health issues with that. But I think the key thing when it goes to our tagline is eat, live, move, right? You gotta live, and realistically, you have to eat something, and if you're not enjoying your life and eating, and then what really like that causes issues mentally as well. And then of course you've got to move. That is key. I can't just shovel a whole thing of chips into your mouth and then sit on the couch and watch. I'm watching Clone Wars right now, so I'll say Clone Wars, and then expect to lose weight or be the epitome of health, right?
Yeah, no, it is about your expectations. But if you one night eat a bag of chips and do a marathon of Clone Wars, I mean, that is not what I would be watching. I've been watching Rise of the Pink Ladies on Paramount Plus. It's pretty great. And eating a bag of chips. If you do that one night, but then you go to the gym and it's like you follow everything in moderation. As my mother always said, everything in moderation.
Yeah. Well, and I think you kind of brought up the line of the mental side of it too. And I think that's a huge thing when it comes to the whole topic of body positivity versus health versus what you're seeing and all of that side. Like, I mean, growing up watching all the teen shows and all this stuff and just wishing I could look like all of them and never seeing a bigger person on TV, or very rarely seeing a bigger person on TV who wasn't the butt of a joke.
Yeah. The big butt of a joke.
Exactly. But it takes a toll on you. And then when you go to school and everybody's telling you that you don't fit in because of that, it takes a toll on you. So now that we're kind of in this culture where, we do have the Lizzos of the world who are standing tall and proud as they should be, it makes such a difference.
Yeah. Representation makes a huge difference across all boards, right? Anytime there's a representation and someone can see themselves in media of any kind in a positive light, it always goes to that positive mental state of, oh, I can see myself as that person.
Well, even internally, I think you both hit the nail on the head. I was thinking about not really seeing myself represented, and I used to, especially particularly when I was in my early 20s, blame my weight on the reason that I was single, the reason that I wasn't going to have children, and it all related to being single but not finding anybody to date. I was just like, oh, so when I start to lose weight, I'd lose 20 or 30 pounds and I'd feel a lot better, and then I'd realize I'm still single. All those other things in my life are not automatically changing, because those are the perceptions that are created through, TV shows and movies that you're watching and that you're very influenced by when you're really of any age. Like, we pretend that it's a teen or early 20 issue, but it's not. It's all of us. And all of a sudden, I'd start to eat again because I'm like, well, at least then I have my shield, like something else. Because in fact, even in my own head, and I think I mentioned on this pod before, the reason I'm attempting to lose weight and just be healthier now has very little to do with looks. It has everything to do with health because of some scares. But I guess that's what being 40 does.
Yeah, and it's like with the dating sites, like I never put myself out there. Like, I did not date a lot in my life. I have an incredible partner now. We've been together for 4 years. He was also a Caitlyn stalker. But that's a whole story for another day.
It's a fun story to bring up. Can we talk about how I've vastly influenced your life by introducing you and Brian?
Caitlyn has changed my world. It was because we went to Port City Fitness together that I gained confidence to start dating, and then met Brian, and it has been great. So really,
who's a fellow trombone player who I knew since we were in high school. He was in grade 9 when I was in grade 12. So really, I've vastly improved Amanda's life.
Clearly. It's true. And that's part of what it comes down to, not Caitlyn improving my life, but self-confidence and that whole towing the line of body positivity and knowing that it's like, I started working out more. I started feeling better about myself, and then was willing to put myself out there on the dating apps and all that stuff to be like, okay, what's going to happen now? Whereas before I was like, no, I'm fat. That's it. Like I'm not going to try and date. I'm not going to put myself out there. And then, but your confidence in yourself, in your journey, in whatever you're doing, makes a world of difference in your life. And, you know, health comes first when it comes, like, or not comes first, but health is a big thing when it comes to weight. And I think as long as you're taking care of yourself as best you can, then you're headed down the proper road.
Yeah, totally agree. And like you said on the last pod, like even just you had both agreed to just even just for everyday walk down the street, just doing something minor like that is a huge difference. Just again, eat, live, move. It's all about making sure you're moving and doing and getting out and stuff like that.
Yeah, take care of yourself, but don't be afraid to live your life.
And don't let the haters get you down.
Hell yeah. Are you ready to be loved?
There's an Elton John song from the turn of the millennium that's Are You Ready to Love? Do you guys know it? It's
No.
Are you ready? Are you ready to love?
I like the dance moves with it.
It used to be the car dance I do with it. I will never do that again. That's a lie. I'll do that all the time.
No, I for sure. I like that there is visual representation in media, and I think hopefully at some point in time people will get over the fact that there are bigger people need to be represented.
Yeah.
And that it's not a bad thing for them to be representative. I think there is a conversation to be had about health positivity as well, but we still need to celebrate that people are being represented.
Yeah, there's so many times in my life that, and this is going to sound silly considering the place in which we're doing this, that before somebody takes the time to get to know me, despite being a very large person, I've felt actually invisible. People have looked right through me because they don't want to acknowledge that I'm a person who's around. Having said that, I am lucky in that I have a pile of friends and a pile of great family and all of these things that I put myself out there to a point that you can't help but avoid me.
Yeah.
So I haven't experienced that, but that initial feeling when I go to a new place or a new situation that I'm not a person that is hot by former society standards. So I'm not going to go into a bar and have like men flock to me or things like that. Like that's just not, and that's okay. I've grown to accept that, but when I was younger, it was like, wow, they're always talking to my friends and never to me.
Yeah.
And I think now in seeing people be not just out there and putting themselves out there, but sexually being out there in a very provocative kind of way. That's why I go out, shout out to my girl Lizzo again. It's changing the paradigm. It's changing the way people look at things, because the truth is all people are different. Men and women are attracted to different bodies despite what media tells you.
Right.
And it's just feels good to see yourself represented. That not that I think Lizzo is me. Like I don't.
You just wish a little?
Well, I mean, I play trombone, so
a little different. No. Yeah, well, and having that celebrity side of it too is just, like I said, that visibility is nice, but also on the flip side, I want to say I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago or a month ago, however long time is, Ariana Grande posted something on TikTok, because people had been making a lot of comments about her and how thin she was, and basically like making comments about her being unhealthy. And she posted a video and was essentially like, thanks for your concern. I'm not really going to talk about this again, but I'm at one of the healthiest places I am in my life. And the moral of her post, and you should go watch it, it was really great, was don't talk about other people's bodies.
Yeah.
Don't judge other people's bodies. Like, your body is your body. That's what you know. You know what's going on in your life. You don't know what's going on in their life. And just don't judge people. It sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay, and don't also be afraid to tell somebody that they'll look good either.
Yeah.
You don't need to say, "Well, I've lost so much weight, you look great," because I mean, and that you can, it's fine.
But just say you look
But just say
great.
you look great today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel that way, just shut up.
Absolutely. And it's like
Just stop talking.
yeah, it's like you can compliment someone, but there doesn't have to be more to it. It doesn't have to be tied to, oh, you've lost so much weight, you look great. Like you said, it's just, you look great.
I read a tweet.
Like-
I know that we're coming up on time here, but I read a tweet
Sorry.
not too long ago from this woman, and it really stuck with me. She said, I've over the last year and a half, I've lost 150 pounds. And I look drastically different. And in my job, I would argue that I am doing less work. I've gotten a promotion and I'm making more money, and I should be happy about all of this, but I actually feel miserable because that just totally confirms what I always thought when I was heavy, that it was holding me back. And man, that really did something to me when I read that, because I was like, I wonder how that plays out. I don't think that's played out for me. Like, I feel like I don't think it has. Certainly not with my current employer, because I mean, that is well, I mean, that would not be okay.
No.
Yeah.
I think that side of things is more in the female realm when it comes to promotions and things. I think as a guy, that's not what's seen for guys.
No.
I mean, people like outside of work would see you as a bigger person and think you're unhealthy and whatever. But in business, in work, that as a bigger person, as a guy, bigger person, it's not even a thought. They don't care.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
That's a whole other
It's a whole
story,
different
whole
world.
other topic, and that we don't have the time for that long topic today.
Well, Amanda, thank you so much for joining us these last 2 episodes. It's really been a pleasure. Long time listener, first time caller.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I've listened to every episode, and I feel honored to be your first guest, and can't wait to hear what else happens on this podcast.
Thank you, and maybe we'll have you back sometime
Hey,
in
I'm always
the
up for it.
future. And if you have a topic you want to talk about with us, comment in our YouTube on whatever. Hit us up on our Facebook, and maybe we'll have you on.
You'll join us on your red mic.
Yes, on
The
your
hot red
lovely-
mic.
the hot red mic. But as we always do before we close, we'll start with Amanda. Where can people find you on the internet?
All right, let's see if I can get it right this week. I am on Twitter and TikTok at Amanda Gaudette24. And I am on Instagram at apanda1990.
And I am on TikTok at Fat Caitlin, on Twitter at the Caitlin Dean, on Facebook as Caitlin Dean, and on Instagram as Kated or Kate D, all one word, and which I got wrong last time, but anyway, it's fine. And Isaiah, how about you? Maritime Brews everywhere.
That's exactly Maritime Brews everywhere. And then, of course, we are on Facebook, Kate and Isaiah Living Large. Go give us a follow there. And of course, if you're not watching this on YouTube and you're listening to it on like Spotify or something, because we're all over the place, you can also see the video stuff on YouTube. So, yeah.
Thank you again, Amanda. This has been awesome.
Thank
Yes.
you.
And thank you guys all for listening. Bye.
Bye.